I'm not proud of how it started, a rented smile on my face, a tux on his, a chandelier throwing light, like it was trying to forgive us then. A little hand tugged mine, and a voice that didn't care about optics or contracts asked the one question that split the room in two. Can she stay forever? Champagne paused mid-air. A violin note hung longer than the bow, and the single dad CEO, who had hired me so his life would look whole on paper, blinked like someone had opened a window in January. Yeah, that happened. And if you've ever been the person people whisper about, instead of speak to, you know exactly how my spine straightened while my heart did the opposite. My name is Mara Lane. I used to say I was a dancer, like it was still true. Present tense on brave days, past tense when the pain in my back pinched, the sentence closed. Rent doesn't wait for your dreams to heal, so I learned to survive between what I lost and what I could pretend to be. Walk in, know the names, be warm but not loud. Exit before anyone wonders who you are. He was Ethan Ward Helix Dynamics, the kind of company that hides cables under oceans and secrets in the sky, widower father to Piper, a 4-year-old with pink sneakers and a laugh that sounds like a kite string humming in a good wind. Our agreement was simple. I'd be there for optics, hold a glass, shake a few hands, leave before the city remembered my name. But Piper barreled across the Harborview Maritime Gala, like the ground had always been meant for her, stopped in front of me, took me in without judgment. "You look like a princess," she whispered, slipped her fingers into mine and announced to her father and a circle of investors, "Daddy, can she stay forever?" You could feel the room thaw, like someone turned the thermostat up 3 degrees. Mr. Adler from Zurich nodded at my answer about community programs and tech that actually helps neighborhoods. Ethan watched me like he'd braced for a collision and got a song instead. Then Vivian Pike, the CFO, whose smile never reaches payroll, floated over with a compliment so sharp it left a mark. "Interesting choice," she said. "Interesting is finance for brave," I said back. She tilted her head. "Or foolish," she murmured. Piper squeezed my hand under the tablecloth, and that is how we declared temporary war with butter knives. After the gala, Ethan invited me to dinner, the kind of polite continuation people do when a room decides you belong next to each other. The townhouse was elegant in the way grief sometimes decorates everything intentional. Nothing joyful. Piper sprinted in wearing rocket pajamas and leaped into my arms like we were catching a train. "Mommy." She announced a title she invented without permission. Ethan flinched, and I felt the floor tilt. "That's a big promotion," I told her. "Do I get benefits? You get tea parties," she said, then arranged her stuffed animals like a jury and ordered her dad to say goodbye before work. He kissed her forehead. She pointed at me. "Her too, that's what daddies do." He hesitated long enough to be honest, then gave me a small, careful kiss that was nothing and everything. At once later. When Piper slept, I found a photo on the counter, a woman with clear eyes and a gentleness that made my throat hurt. Airline. Ethan said, "Leukemia." Piper was 3 months. The kettle clicked. The house listened with us. Sometimes pretend is the only safe thing, he said, until it isn't. I told him about the rehearsal floor and the sound my back made that winter, the Paris contract that turned into a rumor, the little kids I taught afterward to keep my hands from forgetting. He took a shawl from the chair and wrapped it around me like I had always been someone people took care of. "You could show Piper sometime," he said. Not a strategy, a wish, so the next afternoon we moved. The furniture opened the back door, let warm air and basil in. I showed Piper how to breathe, taller than fear first, position second, a little turn. She wobbled and laughed, and I told her, falling is science, not failure. At the sink. Ethan stood very still with a glass of water. He forgot to drink, and something in his face softened like a room that finally lets you sit down. The house started sounding like a place people actually live. Tiny shoes by the door, crooked watercolor giraffe on the fridge, rain tapping on a Tuesday, while I organized a closet Maria had warned me about. I pulled down a dusty box and found a knit hat, the size of a teacup, and at the bottom a pair of tiny pink slippers with ribbons long enough to fit a hope. I sat on the floor and cried ugly, the kind of crying that empties a room you didn't know. Full. Ethan didn't ask what was wrong. He sat across from me and slid a tissue box within reach, like an offering. Two people in a hallway, a child asleep down the corridor, a silence that could be a paragraph. Then came the twist, the way cowards arrive through a message ping that sounds like ordinary life. A former colleague sent Ethan a screenshot with a note that might as well have been spit thought. You should know your new girlfriend has a profile on a companion site. Been doing this for years, not the first billionaire's arm. The grainy photo was me in a red dress, smiling the way you do when you need groceries, and pride at the same time. He put the phone on the kitchen island, like evidence, and asked, "Anything you want to tell me?" "Yes," I said. "Because lies dig deeper holes." "I did that. I'm not doing it now. How many?" He asked, too calm. "Does it matter?" I shot back. "It matters if this is a performance." His voice cracked on the last word. With her with me, I felt myself step back like heat had moved through the room. "Do you honestly think I could fake the way I ran when she fell on those stairs?" I asked. "Or the way I slept on the floor by her bed when thunder sounded like it had teeth?" "I don't know what to think," he said, "which is the knife people use when they want you to bleed without feeling responsible." I packed a bag, wrote a note that said, "I hoped he'd believe in the part of me that lives in daylight." Now left the spare key on the counter like a confession. I moved into a studio in the old Firehouse 5 building where the bricks remember smoke, taped a flyer to the coffee shop board. Community class, pay what you can. No wrong bodies. No wrong past. The first week, 3 kids came, the next 9, plus a woman who cried through pliés just to feel like she was in her own life again. We strung fairy lights because victory should sparkle, even when rent is late. I called it East Side Movement. Maria brought Piper on Saturdays, like love had found the back door. Piper twirled in sneakers because her feet outran her shoes. She asked me when I was coming home with a confidence that could level a city. I told her, "I was right here. Sometimes you tell a child the truth so you can practice hearing it yourself." Then, the Helix Victory Tour landed on the calendar, investors in fleece vests walking through a data center, pretending to read the map, Vivian sharpening her smile. Adler watching like a chess player. I didn't plan to see Ethan. I planned to keep showing people their own strength until my arms got tired. He showed up at East Side on a Thursday with a white shoebox, like an apology. Might be inside. The kids went quiet in that spooky way children sense weather. Piper burst through the door a second later with Maria, eyes bright. Ethan didn't wear the CEO face, he wore the one you put on when you need to be believed. "These were Piper's," he said, lifting the lid, tiny white ballet shoes scuffed in the honest places, the first ones you tied on her. He swallowed. I kept them by the sink and pretended it was practical. "You were good at pretending when the truth was expensive," I said. He nodded like a man signing a check he should have written months ago. "I was wrong," he said. "I told myself I was protecting Piper from disappointment and the company." From a headline, what I was really protecting was my own pride. It's easier to distrust someone who crawled out of a hole you've never been in than admit you're still standing in one. The kids stared like courtside seats. I didn't make it easy because love is not store credit. "What will you tell Vivian?" I asked. And Adler and the people who think a woman's resume ends where a mistake begins. He looked around at the taped floor, the jar of hair ties, the the mismatched chairs that hold miracles every week. He took a breath that sounded like a door unlocking. "I'll tell them this is my family," he said. "That we don't recruit shareholders who confuse optics with ethics. That the smartest investment I've made is in a person who refused to fake it when real life was happening." We walked into the Helix tour together the next week because fear is just a room you walk through. Vivian clocked us, so we're leaning into the fairy tale, she said. Sugar on top, salt underneath. "We're leaning into transparency," Ethan answered. "I hired a companion for a gala. It was a coward's move. I met a woman who won't be reduced to any room's story about her. She's part of my life and my daughter's life. If that complicates your spreadsheet, find a simpler job." Adler folded his hands. "Our interest is stability," he said, "and what's more stable than telling the truth where anyone can hear it?" I asked. He smiled a little. "We'll see which is adult for yes with paperwork. In a hallway outside the server room, where the air is too cold for feelings." "Piper asleep on my shoulder," Ethan said. "Come home," I said. "On one condition," he nodded before hearing it. "When she's old enough to ask how we met, we tell her the whole story. Not the cleaned-up version, the real one, the rented gown, the tux, the mistake, the courage it took to stop pretending she gets to decide what kind of story feels like home." He closed his eyes like a small prayer and said, "Deal that night." We posted a photo on East Side's page. Not glossy hair, messy, Piper in the middle, holding the white shoes by their ribbons, like a bell caption said. "Some families are born, some are built, ours is under construction." Comments lit up like a stadium half called me names. They wouldn't say to their own reflection. Half said they'd done what they had to do and were tired of pretending. "Survival is shame," Vivian sent a risk memo. Adler sent a handwritten line, "Building anything is risk. Choose your beams wisely." We chose to let the story stay messy, where people could see it, the studio kept filling. Helix did not collapse. Piper learned to tie her own slippers and then taught a boy named Jaden, because his fingers are still learning patience and me. I stopped talking about my life in past tense all the time. You know what I mean? Maybe you wanted a bow here, a ring under fairy lights? I'm not saying no, I'm saying the ending that matters is this. When the origin of a family is a transaction that becomes the truth, do you throw it away because the first chapter is ugly, or do you keep writing because the people inside it learned how to tell the truth out loud? You tell me. And if this hits something in you, say, it is hiring a date, just a harmless mask or a lie that stains everything. It touches, does a woman's survival strategy cancel her? Right to be believed when she says she's changed. Should a company board get a vote on a child's idea of family? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me what feels right, what feels dangerous, what you would tell Piper if she asked. What love owes the truth, like the video, share it with someone who needs a second chance, subscribe. If you want more stories told by people who lived them, not just people who write the press release, some families are born, others are built, ours is still under construction. And for once, that feels exactly right.